I stood in the kitchen, my hands deep in warm soapy water, scrubbing a pan that didn't need scrubbing. The afternoon sun slanted through the window, catching the dust in the air, making it dance like tiny sparks. My house was quiet, too quiet for a place that had once echoed with Eric's laughter, his sneakers pounding up the stairs, his voice calling Mom from every room. Now, at 24, he came and went like a shadow, polite but distant. I told myself it was normal. Kids grow up. They leave. But the silence still pressed against my chest. The front door clicked. I dried my hands on the towel, heart lifting the way it always did when I heard him. Eric's footsteps were slow, deliberate. Not the usual rush of someone grabbing keys or a jacket. He appeared in the doorway, tall and lean, his dark hair a little too long, curling at the collar. His eyes, my eyes, green like mine, wouldn't meet mine, Mom, he said, voice low. Can we talk? I nodded, wiping my palms on my jeans. Of course. Sit. I gestured to the island stools. He didn't. He just stood there, hands shoved in his pockets, shoulders hunched like he was bracing for a blow. Then he closed the kitchen door. The soft click of the latch sounded louder than a gunshot in the stillness. My stomach dipped. Eric never closed doors. Not like this. Not with that look on his face, half guilt, half defiance. Mom, he started, then stopped. He swallowed hard. I need to tell you something. I waited. The clock on the wall ticked. Outside, a car passed, tires hissing on wet pavement. Though it hadn't rained, I've been seeing someone, he said finally. For a while now. I smiled, relief loosening my shoulders. That's good, honey. Who is she? His jaw tightened. Her name's Lily. Lily. The name floated between us, unfamiliar. I'd never heard it before. Not once. Not in passing, not in a text I'd glimpsed, not in any story he'd told. My son, who used to tell me everything, who cried in my arms when his first girlfriend dumped him in high school, had kept this girl a secret. Okay, I said slowly. Lily. That's nice. He shifted his weight. We've been together almost a year. A year. My mind reeled. A whole year of dinners where he said he was out with friends, of weekends he spent crashing at Jake's, of nights he came home late, smelling faintly of perfume I didn't recognize. A year of lies, or at least omissions. I opened my mouth to ask why he hadn't told me, but he spoke first. There's more. I braced myself. She's pregnant. The words hit me like cold water. Pregnant. My son, my little boy who still had a scar on his knee from falling off his bike at 8, was going to be a father. I stared at him, waiting for the joke, the laugh, the just kidding, Mom. But his face was stone. Pregnant, I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. He nodded. 8 weeks. 8 weeks. That meant. I did the math in my head. They'd known for a month, maybe more. Long enough to see a doctor. Long enough to decide what to do. Long enough for him to keep it from me. I sank onto a stool, my legs suddenly weak. Eric, I know, he said quickly. I know it's a shock. I know you're disappointed. But we're keeping it. And, he took a breath. We're getting married. Married. The word hung in the air, heavy and absurd. My son, who still left wet towels on the bathroom floor, who burned toast and forgot to buy milk, was getting married. To a girl I'd never met. Because she was pregnant. I laughed. I couldn't help it. A short, sharp sound that made him flinch. Mom, you're 24, I said, the laughter dying. You've got a degree you haven't used, a job at that garage you hate, and now you're tying yourself to a girl you hid from me for a year because why? You thought I'd disapprove. His eyes flashed. You would have. Maybe, I admitted. But I deserved to know. I was going to tell you. After we figured it out. Figured what out? I stood, my voice rising. How to trap each other. How to play house because of one mistake. It wasn't a mistake, he said fiercely. I love her. Love. The word stung. He said it like it explained everything. Like love made this okay. Like love erased the fact that he was throwing his life away. You don't even know her, he said, softer now. You don't know us. No, I said. I don't. Because you didn't let me. Silence stretched between us, thick and ugly. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him. I wanted to go back to this morning, when my biggest worry was whether to repaint the guest room. Finally, I said, when do I meet her? He hesitated. Soon. She's nervous. Nervous, I echoed. She's nervous about meeting the rich bitch who's going to judge her? His face hardened. Don't what? Speak the truth. You think I don't know what people say? That I bought this house with my ex-husband's guilt money? That I'm some lonely divorcee clutching her checkbook? I laughed again, bitter. Well, guess what, Eric? I am rich. And I worked damn hard to get here after your father left me with nothing but debt and a 5-year-old. So yeah, I'm going to judge the girl who's dragging my son into a shotgun wedding. He stared at me, jaw clenched. You don't get it. Then explain it to me. He opened his mouth, closed it. Then, quietly, she doesn't want your money. I blinked. What? She doesn't want anything from you. From us. She's scared you'll think she's after your cash. That's why I didn't tell you. She made me promise. I sat back down, stunned. All this time, I'd been imagining some scheming girl with dollar signs in her eyes. But Lily, pregnant, scared Lily, didn't want my money. She wanted my son. And she was afraid of me. I looked at Eric, really looked at him. The boy was gone. In his place stood a man, tired and terrified, trying to protect the woman he loved. From me, I'm sorry, I said, the words scraping my throat. He nodded. Once, I want to meet her, I said. Properly. No judgment. I promise. He searched my face, then exhaled. Okay. Tomorrow. She's off work at 3. I nodded. I'll make dinner. He turned to leave, then paused. Mom. Yeah. I'm scared too. I stood and hugged him. He was stiff at first, then melted into me, his head on my shoulder like when he was small. I held him tight, breathing in the scent of motor oil and the faint trace of the cologne I'd bought him last Christmas. I've got you, I whispered. Both of you. After he left, I stood in the kitchen a long time, staring at the closed door. My world had shifted on its axis, and I hadn't even seen it coming. But as the shock settled, something else bloomed, curiosity. Who was this Lily who'd stolen my son's heart and turned his life upside down? And how, in the space of one closed door, had I become the villain in their story? The next day, I cleaned the house like a madwoman. I dusted shelves that didn't need dusting, scrubbed counters until they gleamed, rearranged the spice rack by color. Anything to keep my hands busy, my mind from spiraling. At 2:30, I changed outfits 3 times, too formal, too casual, too trying. Finally, I settled on jeans and a soft green sweater, the one Eric said made my eyes look kind. At T2:55, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Eric standing beside a girl I almost didn't recognize as the one I'd pictured. Lily was small, barely 5'2", with wild auburn curls tied back in a messy bun. Freckles dusted her nose, and her hazel eyes were wide, wary. She wore a faded denim jacket over a sundress that strained slightly at the middle, evidence of the life growing inside her. Her hands twisted the strap of a worn canvas bag. Hi, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I'm Lily. I smiled, hoping it reached my eyes. Anna. Come in. She stepped inside, glancing around like she was entering a museum. Eric hovered behind her, protective. I led them to the living room, where I'd set out tea and the lemon bars I'd baked at dawn. Sit, I said. Please. They sat on the couch, side by side, thighs touching. Lily's hands rested on her lap, fingers laced tight. Eric's arm went around her shoulders. I poured tea. My hands shook slightly, but I hid it. So, I said, handing Lily a cup. Eric tells me you work at the bookstore on Maple. She nodded. Yeah. Part-time. I'm saving for school. School? Art, she said, a spark lighting her eyes. I want to illustrate children's books. I glanced at Eric. He hadn't mentioned that. That's wonderful, I said. What kind of stories? She hesitated, then smiled, a real one this time. Ones about kids who feel different. Like they don't fit. But they find their place. I saw it then, the thing that had hooked my son. Not just her beauty, though she was lovely in a wild, untamed way. But her passion. Her quiet strength. She was an artist, a dreamer, and she was carrying my grandchild. We talked. Slowly at first, then easier. She told me about growing up in foster care, bouncing between homes until she aged out at 18. How she'd worked 3 jobs to put herself through community college. How she'd met Eric at the garage when her ancient Civic broke down, and he'd fixed it for free because she was crying in the waiting room. I thought he was an angel, she said, laughing softly. Grease on his face, but smiling like he didn't have a care in the world. Eric squeezed her shoulder. She paid me in coffee and a terrible poem about carburetors. It was a good poem, she protested. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time since he'd closed that door. And as the afternoon wore on, I saw them. Not as a mistake, not as a trap, but as 2 kids in love, terrified and trying. Lily's hand kept drifting to her belly, a protective gesture she probably didn't even notice. Eric watched her like she was the only thing keeping him tethered to earth. When they left, Lily hugged me, hesitant, then fierce. "Thank you," she whispered. "For not hating me." "I could never," I said, and meant it. After they drove away in Eric's beat-up truck, I stood on the porch a long time. The sun was setting, painting the sky in oranges and pinks. My house felt different, bigger, somehow. Full of possibility. The wedding was small, held in the backyard 3 months later. Lily's belly had rounded into a gentle curve beneath her simple lace dress. She'd made the bouquets herself, wildflowers from the field behind the bookstore. Eric wore the suit I'd bought him for graduation, sleeves a little short now. I walked him down the aisle, my arm in his, tears blurring my vision. When the justice of the peace asked if anyone objected, I almost laughed. Object? I was the one who'd paid for the caterer, the chairs, the string quartet playing softly in the corner. I was the one who turned the guest room into a nursery, painting the walls a soft yellow and assembling a crib with instructions that made me swear like a sailor. Lily's vows were a poem, better than the carburetor one, she promised. Eric's were simple. I will love you every day, in every way, for as long as I breathe. When they kissed, the small crowd, mostly Lily's co-workers and a few of Eric's garage buddies, cheered. I cried harder than I had in years. The baby came in January, a girl with Lily's curls and Eric's stubborn chin. They named her Violet, after Lily's favorite flower. I was in the delivery room, holding Lily's hand as she pushed, screaming through the pain. When Violet's cry filled the air, I sobbed like a fool. Eric cut the cord with shaking hands. Lily collapsed back, exhausted, tears streaking her face. "She's perfect," she whispered. I held my granddaughter first after the nurses cleaned her, swaddled her in a blanket I'd knitted. Her tiny fist curled around my finger, and I felt it, the shift. The closing of one door, the opening of another. Life settled into a new rhythm. Eric quit the garage, took a job at an auto design firm using his degree, finally. Lily went back to school part-time, her sketches filling notebooks I bought her by the dozen. Violet grew, toddling through my house on chubby legs, leaving sticky fingerprints on everything. Some nights, I'd sit on the porch with Eric, watching fireflies blink in the dark. He'd tell me about work, about Violet's first steps, about how Lily still wrote poems on napkins. I'd tell him about the foundation I'd started, scholarships for kids aging out of foster care, in Lily's name. One night, he said, "You know, I was so scared to tell you. Thought you'd hate her." "Hate me? I could never," I said again. "You closed that door, Eric. But you opened 100 others." He smiled, the same smile from when he was 5, missing front teeth. "Love you, Mom. Love you more." And as Violet's laughter drifted from inside, where Lily was reading her a story about a little girl who found her place in the stars, I knew, this was the story. Not the shock, not the fear, but the love that grew from a closed door. The family we built, one terrified step at a time.